This pitching market is severely inflated, and the trade between the Baltimore Orioles and Miami Marlins that went down about an hour ago even further proves that. I mean, this market is nuts, and for you to have to give up two former second-round picks that turned into top prospects and contributors at the big league level for a starter that has been underperforming, I think that's a very steep price tag. So I'll break down this trade and the overall feeling heading into the deadline just about an hour away on this episode of 3 Up, 3 Down. What's up, everybody? Welcome into 3 Up, 3 Down. I'm your host, Peter Vryonis. I said we were going to be busy ahead of the deadline, and I meant it. This is the second upload of the day, and expect one more video at the end of the deadline, just recapping what I've been seeing. So, the latest trade between the Baltimore Orioles and the Miami Marlins, just an unbelievable return for Miami. Let's not waste any time, but before we get into it, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. I've been grinding for you guys on this deadline day. I'm trying my best to keep up to date, but there are so many trades happening, so I'm handpicking the ones that I really feel the need to talk about, and this one really caught my attention, so I want to talk about it. And Jeff Passan broke the news. The Baltimore Orioles are finalizing a deal to acquire left-handed Trevor Rogers from the Miami Marlins. Sources tell ESPN. Infielder Connor Norby and one other player are headed to the Miami Marlins in the trade, and that other player was Kyle Stowers, who has been up with the Baltimore Orioles for the majority of the season. And look at this. This is the immediate reaction that we saw. The Orioles giving up Norby and Stowers for Trevor Rogers is the worst deal I've seen since the Pittsburgh-Tampa Bay Chris Archer trade. Now, I wouldn't be willing to go that far. Trevor Rogers has shown some potential, but I don't know. I mean, on the surface, it doesn't look like a great deal. And this is your friend Kyle, who's one of the funnier baseball users on Twitter. He says, "Brother, if Trevor Rogers just got that return from the Orioles, the Giants need to be trading Blake Snell right now. We may be able to get the original copy of the Declaration of Independence for him." Now, obviously hyperbole, but that's funny, man. I love that guy. Go give him a follow if you haven't already. He's posts some great content, very funny, and not afraid to call some people out when the time is right. But he's absolutely on the money with that take right there. Not in the fact that they can get the original copy of the Declaration of Independence, but in the fact that that return that the Marlins got, they've had an unbelievable deadline, probably the best in Major League Baseball, and the Blue Jays, I would say, are not too far behind as a second, but man, I really think they've done well this deadline. They also traded Tanner Scott, which I will have a video on later on, but the return wasn't finalized at the time of the recording of this video. But what an unbelievable turn of events for the Miami Marlins. They have all this pitching in the bullpen. We weren't sure what they were going to do with it, and now they've finally started to get rid of those assets, and they've started to build with prospects, and they've restocked their farm system. And let's take a look at Trevor Rogers' stats. I really don't think they're getting rid of too much. He's got a 4.5 ERA this season. He's got 105 innings pitched and a whip over 1.5. Those are not great numbers. He was an all-star in his age 23 season, and he still has 3 years left of control after this one. So I think that's what makes him a very attractive piece to the Baltimore Orioles, especially because he fits their timeline. But man, that is a steep price to pay. And maybe the Orioles can go and say that maybe Stowers and Norby are not going to be everyday players for us, because there is a logjam in the minor leagues with Jackson Holliday. Heston Kjerstad is going to get a lot of playing time down the stretch here as well. He has been performing. So maybe they just kind of phased out those two guys because they didn't believe in them as long-term solutions in their lineup. And that's entirely possible, but it doesn't change the fact that Connor Norby is their fifth-ranked prospect, or was their fifth-ranked prospect, and Kyle Stowers was one of their top pieces as well before graduating to the major leagues. So it's a steep price to pay, whether you have the prospect capital or not. And I guess some teams can be more aggressive on that front, especially a team like the Orioles, who feel like their time could be this season with the up and down play that we've seen from a lot of teams in the American League. I believe the Orioles have the talent to go and and take the mantle from the Yankees and be that top dog in the American League. And they're really showing it. They're flexing their muscle right now. They have an owner who's not afraid to spend, and they have an owner who's not afraid to make the moves and give the GM the opportunity to make the moves, because they're right there. They're right on the precipice of doing something special. So I'm happy with the way that the Orioles handled this trade, I guess. Maybe they could have given up a little bit less in exchange for Trevor Rogers, but if this is the piece that they feel that they needed, not just for this season, but for the years to come as well, then how can you argue with that? The results have been there for the Orioles, and I know it wasn't there in the playoffs for them, but they are headed in the right direction, and they're going to be good for a very long time. And Trevor Rogers, fits that bill for them. So I think they're going to be all right, and they're going to figure something out here. But let's just revisit the trade one more time. Let's take a look here. Norby and Stowers for Trevor Rogers. Now, Matt Williams is saying it's the worst deal I've ever seen since the Pittsburgh-Tampa Bay Chris Archer trade. Now, at the time, for Pittsburgh, I think that was a decent trade. We all didn't know how that was going to pan out, because Chris Archer was one of the best arms in baseball at the time. But yeah, once you trade for a guy like that, you just don't know how the rest of his career is going to pan out. And maybe Trevor Rogers is going to be an absolute beast at Camden Yards, because that park is suited well for left-handed pitchers. Who knows? I don't know. We have to wait and see for these guys to play out the rest of their careers, and then I think we can judge these trades. But his stats this season have not been good, and Norby and Stowers, I think, have incredibly high potential in Major League Baseball. And the Miami Marlins, good on them. They've already restocked a bit of their farm system. They've allowed themselves to get some bats in return for some of these arms that maybe didn't fit with them long term. And I really like the vision. They need hitting. It's as simple as that. The Marlins have been subpar offensively for a very long time. And for them to go out and get the necessary hitting that they need and restock their farm system, I think this was a great move for them. Got to wait and see to judge what they got for Tanner Scott, but it's with the Padres. I know Tanner Scott is going to the Padres, so you got to believe that return is probably pretty high as well. But that'll wrap it up for this episode of 3 Up, 3 Down. Thank you guys so much for making it this far. Really appreciate all the support that we've gotten. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, give me your thoughts on this trade as well. And I will see you later on for another video. Check out baseballtown.ca as well. They have everything that you need in terms of baseball and softball equipment, so you don't want to miss them. They're a huge supporter of the channel. But until later, enjoy the deadline. Enjoy the dying moments of the deadline. We'll see you later.